Hello and welcome to my Pacific Rim Uprising review. First and foremost, let me say it's been a long 5 years waiting for the franchise to come back. I recently rewatched the first movie, and let me just say the movie holds up. Mako and Raleigh have unbelievable chemistry. Mako was amazing by herself. She really was. Secondly, I'm really upset with Pacific Rim Uprising, and this will not be a spoiler for your review. So in the movie, John Boyega is Jake Pentecost, the son of the hero Stacker Pentecost. It's 10 years after the events of the last movie, and Jake, gets in trouble with the law and an illegal little Jaeger with this girl named Amara after stealing from a trashed Jaeger and tracking Amara down, who had stolen the Jaeger tech that he was going to steal from. First, it's confusing, but basically she stole it first, and then he's going after her to try to steal it back from her. And then they both get caught by a big Jaeger, and Mako gives him the option to return to the service and to be a Jaeger pilot again, and instead of going back to prison. And Mako is now a marshal. We find out Jake used to be a cadet, and that now Jaegers are like the police force, and Jake is going to train cadets. I also mod for a blog called Fandoms Hate People of Color under the name Mod Alley, and we had a couple of asks, and I promised I would do a full review, but I want to address some of the asks here. Agent Daisy Johnson asked, maybe answer on private just in case of spoilers. I love John and I want to support Pacific Rim, but I don't know if I want to after hearing about the spoiler. They already did something effed up by replacing Mako's leading lady spot with a white girl, but it uses Asia as a setting without actually having any Asian leads. Those are major concerns of mine, and I wanted to trust that it would be safe with John being in charge and Mako still having a role, but now I don't know. I'm disappointed. And my response is, okay, I just came back from watching it, and I'm going to do a video review that I'll probably reblog later here this week. But here's my initial thoughts. I'm extremely disappointed with how quickly they killed off Mako Mori. They killed her off in a pointless maneuver when they could have killed off any dignitary. It's racialized misogyny, how they killed her off. Not being an Asian myself, take this with a grain of salt. I'm not on the mod page, but I'm Latinx, Mexican America, and is a Chinese lady, Li Wen Xiao, who is instrumental to the success of Jake's survival and his heroism. So while she's not a lead, I did appreciate keeping an Asian actor in there somewhere. Boyega did an excellent job of carrying the movie because, frankly, the female lead, Amara, just ripped off Mako's storyline from the first movie. He's worth the movie. His character grows, but I understand if you can't see the movie because of Mako's death. Mod Alley. That was my response. Now, after a few days, I don't know if I can recommend the movie anymore, to be quite honest. They gave Charlie Day a much larger role in the movie as the villain, and they couldn't make room for Rinko Kikuchi. Like, that's pretty messed up. And honestly, I feel like it's really indicative of how, like, Hollywood just doesn't feel like they can back up women of color. You know, they will back up male leads like in a million different movies, white male leads in a million different movies, and male men of color in a million different movies, but not women of color. So that's, it's troubling. It's troubling. Okay, next ask. PR Uprising. We hardly get to know about Amara except for that random that almost random flashback scene, we hardly get to know about Jake. I rather wished that story was focused on Mako and Jake, how a strange family have to face their problems and struggle together to protect the Earth. It would have been more moving and significant if Mako and Jake at the end saving the world together. It would also give opportunity to fit Jake's backstory more naturally, but they had to put a white girl. This is an anon, by the way. I'm actually going, this is my response. I'm actually going to address this on my vlog right now, but this is a very good point. The movie suffered significantly from shoving in a random white girl with a similar storyline to Mako. She builds Jaegers. She had a traumatic encounter with a kaiju when she was young. She had a flashback when she's in a Jaeger that screws things up. It's like they wanted Mako's storyline, but Rinko was too old for it at 37, so they brought in a 20-year-old. And so they just killed off Mako and brought in Amara. Talk about racialized misogyny plus ageism. I would say we get to know about Jake, but we could have used a flashback scene with him and Stacker. I would have loved to have seen Idris. I didn't put that in there, but yeah. So I'm interjecting in my response. Then as a family, it would have been nice if it had been in the drift. That's the end of my response. So I just answered this ask. I don't know. I don't have much to add besides seeing a movie with Rinko and John and a Jaeger is what I thought I was getting. I didn't think they'd kill off Mako so quickly. Even Stacker got to be a marshal and go back into a Jaeger. But that's Hollywood for you. Men of color are allowed to carry franchises, but not women of color. Like, for example, John Wick, the Matrix trilogy, Black Panther is just starting his franchise, but his movie is officially the biggest superhero movie of all time. So when do women of color get to carry franchises? I'm not upset at John Boyega that John Boyega is in the movie. I don't want anyone to misinterpret this. I'm upset that the script wasn't written in a way that accommodated two leads of color, John Boyega and Riko Kikuchi. So yeah, I wasn't disappointed in this movie. I was disappointed in this movie. Not to mention, I have really hard time understanding how the tech to make kaiju to put in those rogue Jaegers. Wouldn't it have been easier to say he was piloting them himself via drone? Well, I guess not. He did have to show up for work and whatever. But still, it felt like a plot hole the size of a Grand Canyon. Also, the breaches that he opened to the other side, like, how the hell did they have the complex mechanism that they showed in the first movie set up already to send in more kaiju? I assume they're Einstein-Rosenberg bridges, but Einstein-Rosenberg is, I'm not sure on the name right there, but don't they have to be set up? Like, and I assume they're not just waiting there to be underneath the Earth's crust, just waiting there to be, to be tapped into. I feel like that's a plot hole too. I feel like this movie could have used Guillermo del Toro, to be honest. Anyway, that's my review. Please send in some questions you think I should have addressed. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe on my channel for more reviews. I'm Alicia the Phoenix. Bye!